What up, Z-Pack? It's your boy Z-Dog MD. Check it out. We're live and direct out of Z Studios. It's Sunday. It's Against Medical Advice, and we are celebrating the kickoff to EMS week, my favorite week of the year, except for Nursing Week, PT Week, RT Week, Registered Dietitian Week, Custodian Week, and Landscaper Week, which I think Landscaper Week is actually at the top. Let's see if you guys are coming in, because we're going to talk about pain points in EMS and celebrate all the great work they do. We got 40 people. That's not enough. Bring it. Bring the noise, people. 76 people, 321. Let's start this show.
1, 2, 3.
Just give me patience, yeah.
All right, son. We're going to start off with one comment here from Bradley Henderson. Paramedics are the best. Yes, indeed. Paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, first responders, that's who we're celebrating this week. And we're going to celebrate with a list. We're going to go through this list, Tom Heineber, of things that drive EMS crazy and how we might make them better or worse just for fun and to see what happens.
Let's go through this list, Z.
Let's do this.
I got a lot of items here to talk about.
Lists. People not pulling over when driving for the lights and sirens. How many people have seen this happen? Like, it's like, woo! And it's like, oh, maybe I'll just stay right in this lane and hang out a bit. Why is this guy's sirens behind me? Am I supposed to do something?
You gotta follow the ambulance.
Yeah, that's how you can
do it.
speed when you do that.
Exactly.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So that is another problem. People following the ambulance, especially family members of the person in the ambulance, following and breaking all the rules. So they're running through red lights. It's like, no, you don't get to do that, son. That's what the EMS rig does. You drive like a normal human being, maybe even more careful since you are technically emotionally distraught, assuming that the 911 call was legitimately for an emergency, which is another pain point when those calls are not. When instead it's like, 911, hi, Uber? Yeah, I need to get downtown because the hospital is really near where my auntie's house is. No, that's not okay. Am I wrong, Tom?
But well, there's another one that goes that people who complain about an $800 ride. It's like, I don't remember Uber intubating, you know? Nobody's ever intubated me in an Uber that I know of.
Yeah, the last Uber I had, very few of them could do a cricothyroidectomy. Some of them could because, you know, they're from Egypt and those Egyptians will cut you. I'm just telling you. I'm not stereotyping. I'm just saying it's a fact. But the truth is, these are highly trained, very expensive professionals. Expensive meaning the process is expensive. The professionals themselves are I would say they need to get paid more. What do you think, Tom Heimer?
I think it's ridiculous that they only make like, what, $14, $15 an hour?
That's on the high end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it is a path, right? So, you know, you can start at one level and you keep training. But, you know, since we're going into EMS week, we got to say, look, we need to pay people for the value they deliver, and EMS delivers tremendous value. Particularly, many of them are volunteer, and that's how it kind of started out, right? It was a volunteer thing, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Now you have big companies like AMR, et cetera, running the ambulance game, and now we're talking about integrating them into the continuum of care and health 3.0. Community paramedicine. I mean, these folks are the first people in the house. They see what's going on. Are there needles? Are there crack pipes? Are there other safety issues in the home that the primary care doc should know about, that the emergency department should know about? And so often we're so busy that we don't listen to our EMS providers when they come to us with this information. It's crucial information.
I was also talking to a paramedic the other day, and he was telling me that, you know, a lot of times they get actually abused on the job, you know, physically assaulted, and it doesn't get reported because a lot of these dudes just keep on going about their day, you know, because they gotta get this person in the hospital.
I mean, they're champs, right? Like they are putting themselves in harm's way. You know, one of the great things is that they are going towards danger when everyone else is going away. And that, to me, is one of the sure signs of heroism, if there is such a sign at all existing in the universe. It is driving towards danger to help people when others are running away. We have a comment here, Nickrub Gazelle. My last Uber driver was actually a CRNA, LOL. There you go, you're moonlighting as a CRNA, Medicaid Uber. It's not just Medicaid, Logan. It's actually many people use
All the
911.
Cades.
What's that?
All the Cades.
All the Cades. Like, you know, Dopacaid, Remicade, all the Cades. Leslie Gray says, getting in trouble for no rides when the patient's side refusals. When the patient's side refusals. Okay, I don't understand that. That's the last time I read a comment cold without pre-screening it. Lisa Harris just had a long debate regarding some people hearing EMS complain that they're being called 5 times to the same place for the same person ODing and needing Narcan. What do you think, Z? So here's a great example of how our system is so backwards. Like, if you can call 911 constantly and the same person's ODing, you haven't fixed the root problem, which is that person ODing, and addressing a bigger problem, which is the opioid epidemic, and a still bigger problem, difficult access to Narcan, and a still big. And so all these shells mean that our EMS providers are frontline band-aids on society's problems, and they do it with panache, right? But it doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't be helping to figure out what's the root cause of the problem.
Whitney Welsh says lots of them are doing Uber as a side job, so I take it back. You might be able to get intubated in Uber.
Oh my God.
Honestly, if I were gonna pick, in other words, if Uber gave you an option, okay, Jamal is a Uber driver, he's got 4.8 stars, also happens to be a paramedic, I'd be like, give me that guy. Because when I code, I'm coding in an Uber, Tom.
Yeah, and I'm always drunk AF when I'm in an Uber. You know what I'm saying?
You, sir, are a shining paragon of virtue, Tom Heineberg. That's why I have you on the show. I'm never drunk in an Uber, but I'm often angry, tired, ready to go into AFib, likely rapid, possibly have a big MI or a stroke just because I'm me and I'm like type A+. So I need somebody to help me out. Let's see some other pain points here. People calling the ambulance because they think they will be seen faster in the emergency department.
What? Who does that? That seems...
They do that. So they think if I call 911 and the ambulance, I will get triaged to the front of the line.
Because I came in from an ambulance.
It's
I'm
an
more
emergency.
important.
It's
Yeah.
an emergency. But you know what ends up happening? They end up getting dumped in the waiting room after the triage nurse is like, son, stat hangnail puts you in the back of the line. Now, Z-Pack, I want you to weigh in on that question. Have you seen this actually work where calling 911 will get you faster through triage and into the front of a very long ER wait? Which, by the way, Tom, have you seen those signs in town here in Las Vegas? Emergency room, Mountain View Hospital, wait time only 5 minutes.
You know what's hilarious? We drive by those signs, and my wife tells me to add 5 hours to each one. So she's like, it's 5 hours and 37 minutes. She's like, if you see any time at all on the sign, that means it's many hours for
That's right.
seen. If you see 0 minutes, you can probably get seen in 2 hours.
Yep. That's exactly right. And the whole thing is a scam, right? The whole thing is a marketing scam. In fact, one of the CEOs at one of the local hospitals told me as much. Because I asked him, I said, so are these ER seen in so many minutes? Is that a real thing? He's like, define real.
He's like, we see you. You
Yeah.
walk in the door and we see you.
Exactly.
With our eyeballs.
Exactly. By the way, most of the hospitals in Las Vegas are for-profit hospitals. Not that that really distinguishes them from not-for-profits. They are all equally money-driven, and there needs to be a major reboot in how we manage hospital payments, because if you're paying people to fill beds, you are incentivizing them to incentivize sickness and sick care, not prevention and wellness. So something's terribly wrong. Anyways, there was some Jeff Morris, who I've met, who's awesome, one of the Z-Packers. Ambulances don't always bypass triage. There you go. So don't do it. Do not call 911 Uber. All right, it's not going to get you any better. There's another pain point here that we had listed. Patients calling the ambulance from the ED waiting room because they think they will be seen faster. Can you imagine, Tom, like you're sitting in the waiting room?
Hello, 911? Yeah, I got a hella big emergency.
I don't know why you talk like a drunk 1970s hippie, but yeah, that's exactly. Yo, I got hella chest pains. Where are you? I'm in the emergency room waiting room. Could you imagine the poor dispatch on that one? But this stuff actually happens, guys, because if you can take advantage of a system, you will. And honestly, we shouldn't entirely blame our hapless patients for this, because it's actually a systemic problem that we create a system where this kind of abuse is necessary and possible. So, are we doing something fundamentally wrong? Answer is, of course, as always, yes, because this is against medical advice, and we ain't listening to people here. We're gonna.
Oh my God, Z, I got a good one. People with suitcases ready as they call 911. The only exception being pregnant people.
Yeah, pregnant people get to have a suitcase, but we call it in the hospitalist game, Tom, we call it the suitcase sign. Yeah, 47-year-old guy comes in, positive suitcase sign, means that he intends to get admitted to the hospital,
Yeah.
which usually means he's not going to get admitted because immediately we're going to try to figure out ways to send him home. And usually they're not sick enough to be admitted. But there's a perception issue. That's the suitcase sign, guys. Tell me, comment if you've seen a lot of positive suitcase signs, particularly in your frequent flyer population, people who keep getting readmitted. What's going on? Margaret Strom says learned helplessness. Oh yes, my wife has accused me of that on this show. Learned helplessness. Jared Burton says, I've been in EMS since 2014. Thank you, Jared, for your service in EMS week. I've witnessed all of these calls. There you go.
Oh, dude, Z, this is great. People changing their story between EMS, triage, first RN, resident, and attending. So it's like, the first time it's like, what happened, man? What happened is I was just sitting there, and then somebody came up and hit me in the face. And then by the time you move down the line, it becomes, well, I was trying to rob a store, and I stabbed this dude, and he stabbed me back. And
it actually always goes backwards. You know, they start out with, yeah, I shot someone because I was trying to rob a store, but it ends with, so what had happened, doctor, is I was standing on the corner minding my own business, and then these two guys, it's always two guys, and the next thing you know, there's a bullet wound, a stab wound, and a big splinter in the face, and you're like, how did this go down? This is very common. Tell us if we're wrong, Z-Pack. My dad waited for an episode of NCIS to finish before he went to the ER for a heart attack. Storm LSD. No, but this is common. So you know what? And my wife's still angry about this. When we had our first child, she was having contractions. She's like, I think we should go now. And I'm like, okay, cool. Do you mind if I just have a cup of coffee? Because I'm going to get hella headache if I don't have this coffee before we go to the hospital, and I know that hospital coffee is whack. So she's like, and so I'm like making the coffee, like splashing around, grabbing the bag, and literally contractions are starting. So like, I wouldn't go to the hospital until I had my needs taken care of, all right? I'm just saying. And she is still, well, I've paid for it. Let's just say I have paid for it many times, but our kid came out perfect. And she had a few more minutes than she thought, but not in her mind because she wanted an epidural
Therese
stat.
Bunker says, we have patients call 911 because they want to be released from the inpatient side to go back to a skilled nursing unit.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Listen to this, Tom. I've had patients call 911 from their hospital bed because they thought the care they were getting was crappy. It happened in the VA. Like, it'd be like, hello, they're holding me against my will. Like, I need to get to a real hospital. I'm like, the VA is a real hospital, sir. Not in my mind. Not in my mind. I mean, this is legit. And it would be, if it weren't so funny, we would start to cry, right? And so, by the way, today I posted a meme, this is an aside, posted a meme that we posted on Instagram earlier about how, oh, please tell me about how your family member's a nurse or a doctor. You will get no special treatment. In fact, you will get the opposite of the VIP treatment if you try to name drop. And this is a thing that happens. People are like, well, my uncle's a nurse or my aunt's a nurse, and he has all these questions, and it's like, this is a thing. And so people accused me of, well, you don't have respect for patients, and you guys are very belittling and condescending to patients. It's no. This is our gallows humor. It's also our coping mechanism when we deal with recurrent behavior that we find is very, very difficult and counterproductive to care. The VIP effect, where you actually try to get special treatment because someone in your family's loved one is a caregiver themselves. It often, all the data seems to say that it backfires. So in a compassionate way, if you're being compassionate, we can ridicule the behavior while loving the person who commits it, loving our patients and trying to have love in the face of suffering. But sometimes that means being kind to ourselves and making a joke to let off steam. So anyways, if some of this seems a little harsh to you, kind of filter it through that. That's why we as a tribe of healthcare need humor a lot of the time. What do we got, Tom Heineberg?
Let's see. Calling at 3 a.m. for something that has been going on for months. I don't feel that bad about this one because I feel like the dark is scary, Z.
The dark is real scary. It's scary. Like, honestly, I wake up in the middle. Look, I can have chest pain all day. I'm like, it's GERD. You wake up with it at 2 in the morning, and even though you've had it all day, you're like, no, I'm dying. I'm dying because the dark is scurry. It is scurry.
There could be monsters under the bed, man.
There's hella monsters. Hella monsters, Tom Heineberg. My poor little daughter, little Z-Pup, the second, she's so scared of the dark, and it's very irrational, but at the same time it is rational because it's the unknown that we're scared of. In the middle of the night, it's unknown. That's the time you start to panic and think of all the terrible things it can be, and we call. So let's have some compassion for our patients who do that. I know it's very hard for us because you're like, son, if you had come during the day shift, the whole crew is here. I don't have to call in the raids tech. I don't have to call in, the cath lab tech in the middle of the night. We could have done it during the day. You've been having chest pain all day. Your troponин's been 9 all day. But guys, that's not how humans work. And sometimes we have to be accepting of how humans work and try to educate. Other stuff, Tom Heineberg.
Ooh, making up an injury or illness because you didn't want to go to jail.
Okay, now, all joking aside, the piece of crap who kidnapped that nurse in Geneva, Illinois, and I've been hearing from people on the ground there that, it was just a horribly traumatic event on every level. This guy was admitted to the hospital like 3 days prior for swallowing a flip-flop, folded it up and swallowed it. So he had to have surgery to remove the flip-flop. This is an update to the cast we did the other day, which was entitled F with a Nurse, Die, because that's what he did. He was shot by the SWAT team. So he swallowed this thing to get out of jail, came to the hospital, somehow at post-op day 3 or something, ends up stealing the gun from the guard, who, by the way, should be at the minimum fired, at the maximum imprisoned for dereliction of duty, because apparently the guy ran away. And so this kind of behavior, like trying to get out of jail, is a common thing, right?
Seems kind of crazy to me that we bring, felons or suspected criminals into the same hospital as everybody else.
Well, it does until you think, well, these are human beings who need care as well, and they can't get the care at that. They need a higher level of care than they're getting in the jail. So yes, there's abuse, but there's also times when, I've personally had stories and I've personally experienced where the gratitude from a patient who comes from jail who's actually heard and listened to and has a real medical problem, it's overwhelming sometimes, because they're treated like crap by everybody else because of something that they did, and whether they're on the road to recovery or whether they're just trying to survive, sometimes it's hard to have compassion for that group of people. And so people who work in the prison system, they are heroes in and of themselves. Other EMS topics here, Tom.
Not knowing your own medicines or medical history, like when you don't know how many organs they've taken out of you.
Oh, that's common.
Kind of bad, see.
That is common. Do you have an appendix? What's an appendix? I mean, but it's hard, Tom, because if you're not scientifically literate, if you're not paying attention, if you're older, there's all levels of education, so you may not know your full medical history. But this is common, and the truth is, everybody should carry a little chip that's got your full medical history on it, ideally, so that EMS can just plug it in and go, okay, this is what it is, right?
That's how they get you, Z. That's how they get you.
The government.
That's right. They're going to find your Bitcoin, Tom, and they're going to tax the F out of it.
Don't be saying that on this show.
I mean, what Bitcoin? What taxes? What F?
Being allergic to all NSAIDs, tramadol, but not 2 milligrams of Dilaudid. Says they're also allergic to 1 milligram of Dilaudid, but not 2.
Oh, yeah. The only thing that helps them starts with a D, and I'm always like diclofenac, because that's a hella powerful NSAID. So if you want that, I'm all for that, Or, discharge, because if you're not allergic to discharge, I'm going to discharge you too. No, I mean, look, this is, again, it tails into the opioid epidemic, which now EMS is on the front lines of, and they're in danger. So I read an article recently, I don't know if you saw this, Tom, that a police officer had responded to a call. Guy was unconscious in his car covered in dust. The dust got on the officer. Turns out it was fentanyl. And the officer overdosed right there on the spot because some of it got, and he wiped himself. And luckily, the same heroic paramedics that were on the scene to save this guy who had overdosed gave Narcan to the police officer and saved his life. So again, the danger is there and the heroism is there every single day on the front lines for EMS, and that's why we love them, not just during EMS week, but every frickin' day and minute and hour of the 24/7 that they work, the long shifts that they work every single frickin' day. These people are heroes, guys, and they're not paid like heroes. They do it because they love human beings and they love the adrenaline and they love saving lives, period. What else we got here, Tom?
Catherine Simeon says, my favorite diagnosis is FOS.
Full of stool. Full of stool. Or the other S word.
Oh, how about this one, Z? Saying you don't have HTN, DM, or high cholesterol because you think you don't have it because you're on the meds for it.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Do you have hypertension? No. Do you have high cholesterol? No. Do you have heart disease? No. No, I'm on medicine for that stuff, so I don't have it anymore. Okay, sir. That is a major lapse in history. By the way, Tyler Schalbach says, the only thing that starts with a D, D's nuts, which came from one of my videos for JCO, which, by the way, quick aside, so I talk smack about the Joint Commission just on the daily because it's a fun, easy target. Guess who partially sponsored my talk at the National Patient Safety Foundation last week.
The Joint Commission.
The Joint Commission, or TJC. We made a meme about it that we're going to have to feed in at some point.
I'm posting it tonight on Instagram, so.
It's amazing.
Sub Jaco.
It's amazing. Bless me, Jaco, for I have sinned. Other stuff, Tom.
Let's see. I love when they come to pick up an annoying patient from my unit for transfer, Chris Miller says.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, so we're talking about EMS. So EMS will
Yeah.
transport people from various facilities to other levels of care, LTAC, SNF, hospital. It's a thing. Love the alcohol call, says Wendy Poole. Oh, those are the best.
This isn't on our sheet, but I can imagine like people trying to get in the ambulance is a big pain point. Like, you know, people that don't belong in the ambulance. Relatives,
Oh, yeah,
friends.
yeah. They all want to hop on.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you know, I think a lot of EMS, they have policies for that. And
Yeah,
it's,
limits, right?
they have limits because you have to set boundaries because otherwise, like, everyone, Aunt Marge wants to get in there and hold a hand and all that. And that's lovely and touching, but it's also not safe on many levels, especially if ish hits the fan. You know, it's just like in a code situation. Part of you wants the family to watch the cardiac arrest to see what's going on because then they'll make more intelligent decisions in the future about code status and when to stop. But then part of you is like, no, we need the family out of the room because this is a traumatic thing where doctors are going to be yelling and screaming and ribs are going to be cracking and we need space to be able to do what we do without worrying about the aesthetics of it.
Edward Meltzer says iPhones have a health app where you can enter your health info. It makes it a lot easier to retrieve your history when needed.
Yeah. And these kind of things are the future, but it's tough because you're dealing with, you know, people across the economic spectrum. Some people don't have that phone, don't have it, you know, there needs to be, and again, it'll never happen because America's too libertarian, but the idea that everybody has a chip, a health chip that has their information, people won't do it. People like Logan would say, you know, that's why I have guns to protect myself from chips like that.
Do you remember Black Hawk Down where he leaves his ammo, but he straps his blood type to his boot?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what you want. Anything else on our list? Being in 10 out of 10 pain while taking selfies and texting. What? It hurts, man. It's the worst pain I've ever had. Oh, hey, LOL. Poo emoji. Little poo emoji.
I'm
Guys,
dying.
I'm totally dying.
I'm dying right now.
What do you think, Tom Heineber? Should we just give one last set of love to our EMS homies, brothers and sisters on the front line? EMS be dope hashtag. Spread that hashtag. I think that's what we're going to try to spread this week. Z-Pack. Here's a fun challenge. Spread the hashtag EMS be dope during EMS week. It's right there, and we are going to bring awareness to everything that these guys do, get them as part of the continuum of care that they already are, everything from community paramedicine all the way up to critical care, flight chopper, get to the chopper, and everybody in between. It's part of Building Health 3.0. We love you guys. Stay tuned this week for a Vader. He's going to rep you guys too. And I don't know, Tom Heineber, should we call the code?
I think we're out.
I think we're out.
1, 2, 3.
Just give me that.